Zhang Dali walked through the already night city. It was a little cool. Zhang Dali looked at the people around, who were going about their business, and ate his delicious and very fragrant pancake with some kind of filling, which he had just bought in order to rid himself of annoying thoughts about his sad life, which he lived. Suddenly, he was abruptly stopped by an old man with a gray beard, who was sitting at his wooden table in a busy city at night on a busy street in perfect solitude. Zhang Dali immediately stopped and asked the elderly man what he wanted from him and why he stopped him. An elderly man asked if Zhang Dali would like to accidentally buy himself something new and interesting, for example, such as a utility. Zhang Dali took a bite of his delicious, but probably already cold pancake for a long time, chewed it a little and then thought about something for a while. After a while, Zhang Dali asked the elderly man at the table what kind of thing this utility was. The elderly man tried to explain in detail to Zhang Dali that the utility is such a very special thing that gives a person the greatest opportunity to instantly increase their cultivation, and that whoever has it, this utility, will definitely be able to become an unsurpassed defender, the main mentor, and even be able to achieve immortality. The old man also added that absolutely anyone can use it to rise to the very peak of their powers and conquer this world, fulfilling all their innermost desires. Zhang Dali looked at the old man with some disbelief at his words, and then quickly turned around and rather walked away from this suspicious old man. The old man tried to stop Zhang Dali as soon as possible and shouted after him, calling him a co-religionist. Then Zhang Dali slowly turned around and with a dissatisfied face asked again what this old man wanted from him and why he kept calling him. The old man looked at the young guy, told Zhang Dali that his name was Zhang Dali, and the guy was very surprised that this old man even knew his name from somewhere. But the old man did not stop there. He continued to tell Zhang Dali about all the details of his difficult life of a poor guy. A gray-haired man with a beard told the young guy that Zhang Dali had a large reserve of energy from early childhood, great strength, and therefore ate a lot. The 18th generation of his ancestors were the most ordinary poor peasants. Zhang Dali's own mother died too early, and then his father began to drink all kinds of drinks that contain alcohol often, and in the end completely drunk. Then the old man said that he even knew that Zhang Dali had recently been diagnosed with a fatal illness, and this news had greatly upset Zhang Dali. He was disappointed in life and completely stopped hoping for a bright future, forgetting absolutely all his desires and dreams. That is why, according to an old man with a gray beard, Zhang Dali decided that he should finally, before he dies, buy himself a delicious fragrant pancake with some filling, eat his fill, and then end this senseless life by suicide. After all, now, after everything that has happened to him, nothing pleases him here at all and does not keep him. Also, the gray-haired old man said that this year Zhang Dali was able to enter a fake university, and yesterday his beloved girlfriend, with whom he had been in love for 3 years, left him on the phone. At this moment, Zhang Dali began to recall all these moments from his life, and involuntarily tears appeared in his eyes, although he was still eating his probably cooled pancake with stuffing for a long time. Zhang Dali went back, walked closer to the old man who was still sitting at his wooden table and asked how he was able to find out everything about him that he had just told him. The old man sarcastically asked if he really turned out to be right in everything that he had just told, and scratched his not very long and not thick, but probably gray beard for a long time. Zhang Dali looked at the old man and replied that the elderly man was indeed absolutely right in every word. Zhang Dali could not believe in any way that an old man could somehow know absolutely every moment of his miserable poor life. This upset Zhang Dali a little, but he tried not to show that he cared about anything. Then the old man asked if Zhang Dali's pancake was still fragrant in his hands. Zhang Dali looked at his already bitten pancake several times, which had cooled down for a long time and was clearly not fragrant, and which he held tightly in his hands and replied that the pancake was no longer fragrant at all. Then the old man immediately snatched his pancake with stuffing from Zhang's hands anyway and said that he would now let him choose one utility. The old man still continued to tell Zhang Dali that this utility allows you to increase cultivation in the blink of an eye, allows a person to become a great protector and wise main mentor, and then get married, achieve immortality, and then reach the very peak of all his powers. Then the elderly man looked aggressively at Zhang Dali and abruptly said that with this thing, his boring and dull life would radically change, and asked if he wanted this. If Zhang Dali wanted to make his life more saturated, fulfill all his desires, and finally become successful and rich. Zhang Dali thought for a while about what he really would like from this life, in which until this very moment he had not seen anything positive at all, but only tears, pain and disappointment. Then Zhang Dali lowered his eyes to the ground and after a while quickly raised there, confidently looked at the old man and enthusiastically with a twinkle in his eyes said that he wanted to get this thing for himself. Zhang Dali said that he really wants to reach the peak of his powers and radically change his boring dull life, find a good wife, become successful and rich. The old man quickly jumped up from his wooden chair where he had been sitting all this time, grabbed a bag in his hands and said that in this case it would be very good and Zhang Dali definitely has some talent. Then the old man poured out of the bag some wooden pieces with various inscriptions and drawings. They were rectangular in shape, similar to gold bars, only much thinner and made of wooden material, and then confidently told Zhang Dali to choose one wooden rectangle for himself. These were all utilities, about which so an old man with a beard told a lot with delight. Then Zhang Dali immediately thought that there was a high probability that this old sorcerer was just trying to deceive him, because charlatans are found at every turn in cities, so how could Zhang Dali be sure that the old merchant was not fooling him? Zhang Dali told the old merchant not to try to deceive him greedily, claiming that these wooden tablets were the utility about which he had just told him so many enthusiastic things. The old man then said that Zhang Dali is simply too young and does not understand this kind of thing at all, because all these wooden tablets are the very utilities that the merchant told him so many interesting things today, and which were used by the heavenly heroes themselves. Then the old man tried to explain that after choosing Zhang Dali, he would receive the hero's body and his fate, and then he would be able to get to the very peak of his powers. At that moment, Zhang Dali was very happy, and therefore he looked at all these wooden tablets with delight and a sparkle in his eyes and said that in that case, he would definitely choose one of them for himself now. Zhang Dali looked at each of the wooden utilities very carefully and finally took one of them into his own hands. The first utility was quite a promising hero for Zhang Dali. The old man said that this is a police hero's utility and with it Zhang Dali will be able to get a pretty good reward. He will be able to live his life over and over again, without any regrets, will become promising and rich. Then Zhang Dali said that with this utility, even if his life is like a blank slate, it is unlikely that at least something will change. So he does not want this one, but wants to see another utility for himself. Then Zhang Dali put this wooden police hero utility on the table and picked up a new utility. The old man said that with this utility in Zhang Dali's body, a very old grandfather with a long gray beard would live. Then Zhang Dali decided that it was too risky and he didn't want to take this utility either. Zhang Dali again began to carefully look at each utility from those that lay on the wooden table of the old merchant. Then Zhang Dali saw some kind of utility system on the table and immediately decided that this was exactly what he might need right now. Then Zhang Dali quickly picked up the utility with the system and thought about how with its help he could control the whole world, and the need to work also disappears by itself, because this system will simply help him to reach the peak of his powers. Zhang Dali decided that this utility could radically change his life and make him an absolutely happy person who does not know what poverty is. The elderly man got up from the chair he was sitting on again and asked if Zhang Dali had thought about his choice well, and if he was 100% sure of his choice. Then the old man looked closely at Zhang Dali, looked into his eyes and said that when Zhang Dali made his choice, it would be impossible to refuse in any case. Then Zhang Dali looked at the old man in response and confidently handed him a wooden utility system, and then said that he wanted to choose it, because this choice would change his life forever. The old man somehow smiled a little ominously and eerily. His eyes frowned slightly and he again directed his gaze at the young guy Zhang Dali, and then said that Zhang Dali should definitely keep in mind that now the utility system is quite popular, and who does not ask? Everyone chooses it. In other words, a lot of heroes like to use it. Then, making his look even more angry than it was before, the old man said that in that case, since the young man had made his final choice, it was time for Zhang Dali to leave, and with these words, the old merchant pushed Zhang Dali into some blue portal that appeared from nowhere. Zhang Dali fell screaming into the unknown, and when he fell, he was still trying to pull his hands forward, probably in fear trying to get out of an unknown portal. Meanwhile, the old man was already biting a delicious, but no longer very fragrant and long-cooled pancake with stuffing, which Zhang Dali exchanged. Carefully watched Zhang Dali disappear into the blue portal and thought that deceiving a person for the sake of eating delicious pancakes is not very good. But it's nothing, it can't be helped, because all this happened. Zhang Dali moved through an unknown portal and fell on the beach sand, hitting his face hard on the ground. Zhang Dali heard the sound of waves nearby, birds singing, and immediately realized that he was probably on the beach. Then Zhang Dali quickly assumed a sitting position on the beach sand. He sat on his knees and began to cough loudly and spit out salt water from his mouth. Then Zhang Dali began to inspect the place to which he moved through the portal. It was really some kind of beach. In the water, Zhang Dali saw young and beautiful girls in swimsuits who were happily splashing in the sea with water and chatting with each other cheerfully. Zhang Dali was still sitting on the sand on the beach and carefully looked at the beautiful young girls who were splashing merrily in the seawater. Zhang Dali suddenly thought that this place is very beautiful, and it has changed a lot after using the system utility. Zhang Dali looked at it all and thought that he had never seen so many young and beautiful girls in one place before in his life. Zhang Dali just couldn't take his eyes off this beautiful sight. Suddenly, Zhang Dali heard a female voice unfamiliar to him before, who loudly asked him if he was a pervert by chance. Zhang Dali at first did not understand what was going on, and then looked down at the sand under him and saw that a young girl he did not know was lying buried in the sand right under him and was looking at him attentively. And by chance, his hands were right on her chest. Zhang Dali was very scared because of this when he saw her and even screamed loudly. At that moment he felt more awkward than ever. Then Zhang Dali abruptly removed his hands from the sand from the girl's chest and began to apologize to her, seriously claiming that he had just fallen right out of the sky. The girl looked at Zhang Dali with some disbelief in her face and said that the pervert who fell from the sky sounded quite strange and very suspicious. Zhang Dali tightly squeezed his eyes shut so as not to look at the girl, because the sand in the place of her breasts crumbled and only the swimsuit remained. When Zhang Dali opened his eyes again, he noticed that the sand had already fallen off the girl in some places and looked at her in surprise. Then this girl said that her aunt always warned her that she might meet a pervert one day, and in that case she would definitely need to give him a serious rebuff right away. The girl quickly jumped to her feet out of the sand and jumped into the air, kicking Zhang Dali right in the face. Zhang Dali flew off and fell on the dry beach sand, and then completely lost consciousness. Then the girl loudly, to the whole beach, began to shout that everyone should be more attentive, because here, right among them, there is now one pervert. All the girls who were in the water heard the words about the pervert and were very surprised. One of these girls said that they all need to put on some clothes as soon as possible. Each of the girls began to put on clothes. Someone wore sweaters, someone skirts. After a while, Zhang Dali finally came to his senses. Through a dream, Zhang Dali saw all these young and beautiful girls in front of him, who said that the pervert was actually quite handsome. Before Zhang Dali's eyes, everything was still cloudy, and he still could not see things sensibly. One of the girls even said that handsome guys can also be perverts, so you need to keep people like Zhang Dali tied in marriage. When Zhang Dali finally fully opened his sleepy eyes and his consciousness cleared up a little, he saw in front of him the same girl who had hit him recently and called him a pervert. Zhang Dali lay on the sand, then raised his heavy head and heard two girls arguing. One of them told the other that another girl should not want to marry such a man at all, because he literally just touched their sister and mentor Kian Qiang Cheng. Zhang Dali saw many young and beautiful girls in front of him. Sister and mentor Kian Qiang Cheng at that moment thought that everything her sisters were talking about was just nonsense, because how could you marry a pervert at all? Zhang Dali looked with surprise and incomprehension at the crowd of girls around him and began to try to convince them that he was not really a pervert at all. Mentor Kian Qiang Cheng looked at him with anger in her eyes and asked what he was doing here in that case, if he was not a pervert there. Then Zhang Dali was very confused and did not know at all what he should do now in this situation. Then Zhang Dali remembered that his utility was a system after all. Then Zhang Dali asked the system if she was here, but some unknown voice of the cat replied to Zhang Dali that there was no one near him now. Zhang Dali clenched his hands into fists and angrily asked who was answering him now, since there was no one next to him. Then the voice continued to speak and added that due to the fact that Zhang Dali got involved in some problems, he would soon die and then he would have to look for a new owner. Zhang Dali was shocked by this news and he was a little scared, because he could not understand anything at all now. Then Zhang Dali thought that all this was just idle chatter, and he just needed to take advantage of the system's utility. Now Zhang Dali no longer knew what to do and what to do now. Suddenly, a girl named Xingmeili came up to him and told Kian Qiang Cheng's mentor that she could just castrate this pervert Zhang Dali, and then everything would be fine. Zhang Dali looked at Xingmeili with fear in his eyes, because he did not want such a solution to their problem at all. Then Xingmeili approached him with two knives, one in each hand, and told the mentor Kian Qiang Cheng to move away so as not to get dirty with the blood of this terrible perverted person. Zhang Dali was very afraid of what could be done to him now, and with fear in his eyes, He began to tearfully beg Sister Qingmei to listen to him carefully and not do such stupid things until he explained everything to her. When Zhang Dali was sitting and when he saw a knife sharp as a blade in front of him, out of fear and misunderstanding, he began to strongly and loudly insult the system and demand that it urgently reveal itself to him, because otherwise he could now suffer greatly at the hands of this terrible woman named Qingmei. At this moment, Zhang Dali cursed absolutely everything that had happened to him earlier. He had already decided that if it was all for nothing, then he would just have to go back to the old man who cheated him for a delicious pancake with stuffing, and who sold this system utility, and be sure to settle accounts with him. Suddenly, a table appeared in front of Zhang Dali with an inscription stating that the owner of the system had finally been discovered. But in order to bind this system to Zhang Dali, it would first be necessary to complete one simple task. Zhang Dali needed the girl in front of him, who was standing with 2 sharp knives right in front of him and wanted to injure him, to say 10 times that he loves her very much. Zhang Dali was clearly dissatisfied with such a task, but he thought that it must be completed in order to stay alive and well. Then Zhang Dali was informed that after Zhang Dali completed the task given to him by the system, he would bind the system to himself and be able to use its utilities and privileges. Zhang Dali has to confess his love 10 times to the girl who is now standing in front of him. He was very excited and scared. Then Zhang Dali thought that this task was simply disgusting, because he could die if he did such a thing, since the appearance of this Qingmei does not inspire absolutely no confidence at all. A fiery creature suddenly appeared behind Qingmei, and she said that she would cut off Zhang Dali's weapon of crimes, and then he would no longer behave like this. Zhang Dali was very scared and told Qingmei that they should at least discuss everything that was happening first, because one should not jump to conclusions. Otherwise, you can cripple a completely innocent decent person. But Qingmei was not inclined in her decision to castrate Zhang Dali. She even told him that she was not going to discuss anything with Zhang Dali and then added that he should look at her sharp knife, not at her. Zhang Dali began to shout very loudly out of fear that Qingmei should not do this in any case, because he is a completely harmless and innocent person. But Qingmei didn't listen to his words at all and kept pointing her sharp knife closer to Zhang Dali's body. Then Zhang Dali, unexpectedly even for himself, shouted loudly that he loved Qingmei very much. Qingmei was so surprised by this sudden confession that she even stopped her knife and looked at the pervert Zhang Dali with surprise, and then asked what he had just said to her, as if she had not heard, although she heard everything quite clearly and clearly. Then Zhang Dali shouted again that he loved Qingmei very much. Qingmei was even more surprised and couldn't understand why he was saying this to her so suddenly. Out of great surprise, Qingmei even took the knife away from Zhang Dali and moved away from him a little. Zhang Dali then looked closely at Qingmei and shouted 3 more times in a row that he loved her very much. Qingmei wrinkled her young face in embarrassment and surprise, while the other girls stood and looked at the scene next to them with the same incomprehension. Qiang's mentor Qiang Cheng asked if it was really true that Zhang Dali loves Qingmei very much. The girl who was standing behind Qiang Cheng's mentor said that it did not matter at all whether it was true or not, because Zhang Dali seems to be a real man, since he could muster the courage to say such words about love to Qingmei. Mentor Qiang Cheng looked at the girl with some surprise and incomprehension, and the girl replied that confessing her love to their sister Qingmei could be much scarier even than dying. At first, Qingmei was a little embarrassed by such an unexpected confession of ardent feelings from a handsome man, blushed, but then suddenly became very angry again and said that she did not believe in the sincerity of Zhang Dali's words about love for her at all. After that, Qingmei rushed at Zhang Dali again with a sharp knife in her hands. Qingmei's eyes were full of rage, anger and perhaps even now also resentment. She aggressively attacked the pervert Zhang Dali. Then Zhang Dali again shouted 3 times that he loved Qingmei very much. Qingmei was very surprised again, looked at Zhang Dali and even threw the knife out of her hands on the beach sand near her. Qingmei then screamed that she hated Zhang Dali, turned around and ran away as far as possible from this humiliating and embarrassing incident. Then the cat of the system Zhang Dali congratulated him on the successful completion of the first task of the system, and it was announced that the binding of the system to the new owner had just begun. Zhang Dali was very happy and decided that all his suffering would finally come to an end, and he would successfully use the utilities of the system. Suddenly, the cat that was in the system told Zhang Dali that his cultivation level was too low. The girls from the beach looked at the pervert Zhang Dali with discontent, misunderstanding, and even to some extent with contempt. After all this, Zhang Dali's vision quickly clouded and he lost consciousness again, for the second time in a day. And the cat of the system announced that the owner would be immersed in a state of very deep sleep for a while so that the system could successfully connect to him. The next morning came. Outside, the sun was shining brightly and through the windows the light passed through the room where Zhang Dali was sleeping and shone directly into Zhang Dali's eyes, drooling from his mouth, and he was sleeping in someone's soft and warm bed. Finally, after a couple of minutes, Zhang Dali woke up. He could hardly open one eye. Then after a while he hardly opened the other and looked at the ceiling. The cat of the system congratulated Zhang Dali on the fact that the binding of the system was successfully completed. And on its official launch, Zhang Dali immediately had a whole bunch of energy. His eyes sparkled, and he stood up, assuming a sitting position on the bed. Zhang Dali was unspeakably glad that after all the problems he had to go through recently, the utility's capabilities were finally unlocked and he could use them as soon as he wanted. Zhang Dali remembered the words of an old man that with this utility he would be able to dramatically increase his cultivation, become a great defender, be able to work as a main mentor, then marry a beautiful and successful girl and even possibly be able to gain immortality. Zhang Dali, with great joy and a sparkle in his eyes, imagined this bright fairy tale. And as it seemed to him, the near future, Zhang Dali decided that he could finally reach his peak in spiritual practice very soon. He believed that very soon he would find everything that he had been waiting for so long, and then he would be insanely happy. Suddenly, with a bang, someone kicked out the door to the room where a young man Zhang Dali had just been sleeping quite calmly, and Zhang Dali was very scared, because he could not understand in any way that this had just happened to his door. Then Zhang Dali looked at the door and saw a huge man enter, whose expression clearly spoke of some not very good intentions. It was Xingmei's older brother, whose name was Xingneng. Xingneng walked into Zhang Dali's room with confident steps and looked at Zhang Dali with an evil face, and then squinted his eyes a little. Then Xingneng went to the bed where Zhang Dali was sitting and asked if Zhang Dali had cheated on his younger sister Xingmei recently. Zhang Dali did not understand which sister Xingneng was talking about now. Because of what had recently happened to him, Zhang Dali really did not remember much. Then Xingneng grabbed Zhang Dali by the collar of his light t-shirt and roughly pulled him off the bed, while adding that Zhang Dali was a real trash, since he behaved like this with his younger sister Xingmei. Xingneng told Zhang Dali that his younger sister, a girl who had been badly offended recently by Zhang Dali, was called Xingneng, and then asked how, after what Zhang Dali had done, he still dared to ask him some stupid questions. Xingneng was clearly very dissatisfied and angry with Zhang Dali. Then he asked how dare Zhang Dali provoke him. Xingneng, and even at the moment when they are in the Academy of Immortality Improvement of numerous races, Zhang Dali began to try to convince Xingneng that this was just some kind of ridiculous mistake and just a misunderstanding, and he would not want to harm anyone of his own free will at all. From these words, Xingneng became even more enraged and said that everyone perfectly saw Zhang Dali's worthless behavior, and that now he would make a real invalid out of him. Xingneng had already swung at Zhang Dali and wanted to punch him. But Zhang Dali suddenly shouted that the system was only bringing him trouble at all, and then demanded that she immediately show him at least some technique so that he could cope with Xingmei's brother Xingneng. In response, Xingneng heard only that the system always acts in accordance with an equivalent exchange, and this is its basic principle. So the owner was asked to sort out this problem himself as best he could. Suddenly, Xingneng's younger sister, Xingmei, appeared in the room, and she shouted loudly to her brother Xingneng to stop immediately and not beat Zhang Dali. Xingneng turned around, looked at his younger sister Xingmei and told her not to even interfere in this matter, because the sister should know perfectly well his complex nature and how he takes care of her. But Xingneng's younger sister, Xingmei, looked at her brother with pity in her eyes and said in a confident voice that she and Zhang Dali, in truth, love each other very much. Zhang Dali was very surprised when he heard what Xingmei said to his older brother, and then looked at Xingmei and was about to say something to her. But Xingneng looked at him furiously again, and Xingmei ordered Zhang Dali to immediately shut his mouth, otherwise her brother Xingneng can really kill him. At that moment, Zhang Dali really realized that this was the case. He was in serious danger right now. Xingneng was still holding Zhang Dali by the collar of his light-colored t-shirt and looking at him with furious eyes, and Zhang Dali was looking at Xingmei's brother with frightened eyes and did not know what he should say in his defense now. Then Xingneng just roughly threw Zhang Dali on the floor in the room and said that in the future he simply had to treat his younger sister Xingmei well and take care of her. Otherwise, if Zhang Dali doesn't do it, Xingneng promised that he would throw Zhang Dali into the Demon Academy, and he would feed the mice there. After these words, Xing Meili's elder brother, Xing Neng, went outside and slowly walked away from this place. Then Zhang Dali looked at Xing Meili, and the girl came up to him a little and said that she understood perfectly well that his declaration of love to her yesterday was just an ordinary lie. Xing Meili then added that Zhang Dali was the very first person who confessed his love to her, and although it was just a lie, she was really very touched by it, which is why she saved him from her older brother Xing Neng. Zhang Dali looked at Xing Meili with a gentle smile and kind eyes and said that he was very grateful to her for saving his life from her older brother Xing Neng. Then Xing Meili said that her brother Xing Neng really had a very bad temper, and if at least someone dared to offend his beloved younger sister, then her brother Xing Neng would definitely kill this person. So now he and Zhang Dali would have to pretend to be a couple in love so that no one would suspect anything was wrong. Zhang Dali was not very happy with such words of the girl, and Xing Meili immediately said that tomorrow evening Zhang Dali would definitely have to come to her dorm and they would pretend to meet in front of others. Zhang Dali was very surprised and not at all happy about this turn of events. This is not how he imagined everything. Xing Meili then said that it was time for her to go to her room, so she would leave first and that Zhang Dali should not forget to come to her dorm tomorrow night. Then, when Xing Meili was already leaving, she added that feelings always develop very slowly and rapidly and blew Zhang Dali a kiss. Zhang Dali looked with fear at this air kiss of Xing Meili and he felt a little uncomfortable from such actions of the girl. He even felt a little disgusted. After that, Xing Meili left the room and walked away from Zhang Dali with a slow step, so Zhang Dali was left completely alone in this room again. Zhang Dali, who was still lying on the floor, and for some reason was not going to get up, asked the system where the beautiful, young and rich girl promised to him was. A huge purple cat appeared in front of Zhang Dali and said that Zhang Dali should remain calm for a while, because despite the fact that the system has already been successfully tied to the new owner Zhang Dali, not all of its functions have fully loaded yet, so he should wait a little and everything should be fine. The cat of the system said that immediately after activating the functions of the system, Master Zhang Dali would finally reach the peak of his powers. Zhang Dali, gritting his teeth, looked at the cat of the system and said that this time, so be it, he would believe this cat and would not do anything, but just wait for a while. When Zhang Dali was left all alone again, now even without the system's cat, a new guest came to him. It was the mentor of all the girls, Qian Qiangcheng. Qian Qiangcheng's mentor asked how the pervert Zhang Dali was feeling. Zhang Dali said that he did not feel very well after everything that had happened to him, and then added that he was not a pervert at all, and yesterday's case was the most common misunderstanding. Qian Qiangcheng hadn't entered the room yet, as she was still a little afraid, which was why she only stood in the doorway and looked at Zhang Dali with disbelief. Zhang Dali then looked at Qian Qiangcheng and told her his name. Mentor Qian Qiangcheng greeted Zhang Dali and explained that he is now in the united main country of numerous species. Zhang Dali was quite surprised when he found out that it was some kind of island state. Then Zhang Dali asked Qian Qiangcheng's mentor if this place was really some kind of island country. Mentor Qian Qiangcheng replied that everything is exactly like that and that this state consists of many small islands. And here, where they are now, there is an academy for improving the immortality of numerous races. Zhang Dali asked what else is the academy of perfecting the immortality of numerous races. Qian Qiangcheng turned around to leave and said that Zhang Dali should just forget these words about the cultivation academy, because he wouldn't understand anything anyway. Then Qian Qiangcheng's mentor said that the easiest way would be to just show Zhang Dali, so he could see everything with his own eyes and maybe then he would understand something. Qian Qiangcheng's mentor brought Zhang Dali to one of the campuses of their academy, the campus of the human race. Zhang Dali saw many different people who were training. Some of these people used the power of air, someone used the power of fire, someone uses something similar to lightning, and someone just stood and read something in books. At that time, Zhang Dali thought that the Academy of Immortality Improvement of Numerous Races was probably located here. Mentor Qian Qiangcheng explained that this part of the Academy for the Perfection of Immortality of Numerous Races belongs exclusively to the human race. In other words, it is only one of the campuses of the Academy for the Perfection and Achievement of Immortality of Numerous Races. Mentor Qian Qiangcheng added that there is a campus of people on this island, and campuses of other races are located on other islands. Qian Qiangcheng's mentor then asked if Zhang Dali was by chance their new student. Then Zhang Dali awkwardly scratched his head with his hand and said that, apparently, everything is exactly like that. Zhang Dali remembered the old man who sold him the utility, and wondered if the old man really dragged him to this place just to become a student. The mentor asked if Zhang Dali had registered. Zhang Dali asked what kind of registration else. It wasn't mentioned anywhere at all. Then Zhang Dali turned around and said that since Zhang Dali knew nothing about the registration of students, it means that the person who sent him here is very irresponsible. Then Qian Qiangcheng's mentor grabbed Zhang Dali by the hand and said that even though he was a pervert, they could soon become classmates, so she would take him to the registration place. Zhang Dali looked at mentor Qian Qiangcheng with loving eyes and immediately followed her, still holding her hand. After that, at the place of registration, the old director of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races, Sun Dao Ran, who was sitting at his wooden table on a wooden chair, said that this year the students of their Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races are mostly quite talented and qualified, from which we can safely conclude that the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races, the immortality of numerous races, is thriving well, including the human race campus. Then the deputy director of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Multiple Races, an old woman Liu Sannian, who was sitting on her chair next to the director of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Multiple Races, Sun Daozhan, said that this was really true, because last year they had just terrible students, among whom there were even the most real scum. The deputy director, an old woman Liu Sannian, looked at the director Sun Daozhan and said that no such individuals had been noticed so far this academic year. The director of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races, Sun Daoran, smiled as he looked at the old woman. Then the deputy director of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races added that she had very high hopes for all the new students of their academy, because then they would be able to go down in history as the strongest and most powerful representatives of the human race. The old director of the Academy of Immortality Improvement of Numerous Races, Sun Dao Ran, looked at his wristwatch and said that the registration time had already run out, so it was time for them to finish this and go about their business. Then the old director of the Academy for the Perfection of Immortality of Numerous Races, Sun Daoran, slowly got up from his wooden chair and picked up the notebook that had been lying on his desk all this time, about to leave, but did not have time because he was stopped. Suddenly, the voice of Qian Qiangcheng's mentor was heard shouting loudly to the director of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Multiple Races, Sun Daozhan, and the deputy director of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Multiple Races, Liu Sannian, that there was another new student with her, Zhang Dali, who urgently needed to register for the Academy of Improving Immortality of Multiple Races. Many people who were standing in the crowd and watching the registration of new students were very surprised by the appearance of the mentor Qian Qiangcheng with some previously unknown young man. None of them knew why mentor Qian Qiangcheng personally brought Zhang Dali to the registration, so they were looked at with some curiosity and impatience, because everyone wanted to find out as soon as possible what would come out of all this in total. One of the guys in the crowd said that mentor Qian Qiangcheng is among the top 10 freshmen of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Multiple Races, and besides, she is the only girl among all these top 10 students of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Multiple Races. Everyone in the crowd thought that the person that mentor Qian Qiangcheng brought with her must definitely be some kind of genius. Someone whispered that Zhang Dali might be a genius, but no one can know for sure whether he will be among the best students of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races. Zhang Dali stood next to Qian Qiangcheng and put both hands in the pockets of his pants. He carefully looked around at everything around him. The director of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Multiple Races, Sun Daoran, laughed a little quietly and said that he would be very happy to welcome another new talent among the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Multiple Races. Then the director of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Multiple Races, Sun Daoran, said that Zhang Dali should pass the test as soon as possible so that they could all find out how capable and talented he was as a student of their Academy of Achieving Immortality of Multiple Races. Zhang Dali climbed up the small staircase to the place where the old director of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races, Sun Daoran, was sitting, and his deputy, the old woman Liu Sannian, Qian Qiangcheng, was standing behind him at this time and carefully watching everything that was happening, waiting for the results of Zhang Dali's test. Zhang Dali thought that they seemed to have quite high hopes for him here and smiled slightly. Vice Principal Liu Sannian said that Qian Qiangcheng is an incredibly talented student and has incredible prospects, so Zhang Dali must not be an ordinary person either. Then the deputy director of the Academy of Immortality Improvement of Numerous Races, Liu Sannian, looked at Zhang Dali and said that she really wanted to see what he was capable of at all. Zhang Dali was very flattered that everyone believed in him so much here. Zhang Dali could not believe that he was really so wonderful, and even thought that he probably just never noticed it himself. The old director of the Academy of Immortality Improvement of Numerous Races, Sun Dao Ran, asked Zhang Dali to introduce himself to all the people present here. Then Zhang Dali had to put his hand on the test device that the old director of the Academy of Immortality Perfection of Numerous Races, Sun Dao Ran, handed to him. The stone arrow of this test device would have to show the level of perfection of the new student Zhang Dali. Zhang Dali said his name was Zhang Dali. To this, the director of the Academy for the Perfection of Immortality of Numerous Races, Sun Dao Ran, said that the name Zhang Dali was pretty good and said that before him there was a man named Wang Lin, and he had just reached the 7th level of the Spirit Connection. Then the director of the Academy of Immortality Improvement of Numerous Races, Sun Dao Ran, said that Xiao Yang, who had the 8th level of Spirit Connection, was also here, and there was also the super talented Yi Fan, who was able to reach the 10th level of Spirit Connection. Zhang Dali shouted that since he was chosen for this by fate itself, he would never let others down and become successful. At this very moment, Zhang Dali already thought that the hour had come when all the people of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races would remember him. It was time to start the test, and Zhang Dali put his hand to the spirit level meter. For a while, Zhang Dali held his hand on the level meters without removing it from him and just waited for the result. And no one could understand what was happening with the heavenly arrow of the device. Someone from the crowd said that it was probably because Zhang Dali was some kind of genius, and he was clearly not as simple as many might think at first glance. Another person shouted out that Zhang Dali was clearly worthy of being brought by the mentor Kang Kyung Chen herself, because they say that at birth she had 12 mobile and sharp-witted holes in her heart, so she is always very accurate in her choices. Suddenly, unexpectedly for everyone, the device showed that Zhang was given a 0 spirit level. In the crowd, everyone thought that this was very surprising and that this simply could not be, because he was brought here by his mentor Kyan Kyung Cheng herself. Someone in the crowd of people shouted that Zhang Dali was just an ordinary pathetic person who was just pretending and misleading other people all this time. So he must be the most worthless student who had ever been in this Academy of Numerous Races in its long history. Then Zhang Dali was handed the most ordinary mop for cleaning. The old director of the Academy of Perfection of Immortality of Numerous Races, Sun Dao Ran, handed the new student of the Academy, Zhang Dali, the most ordinary mop for cleaning. And when Zhang Dali asked what it was, the director of the Academy of Perfection of Immortality of Numerous Races, Sun Dao Ran, replied that since the new student Zhang given only a 0 level of spirit, then he can go to the campus of the Human Race Academy of Numerous Species, but only to the cleaning class. The director of the Academy of Perfection of Immortality of Numerous Races, Sun Dao Ran, added that if Zhang Dali can raise his level of perfection, then perhaps in the future he will be able to get into a higher class. Zhang Dali thought with some disdain and discontent about the cleaning class. This Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races reminded Zhang Dali of Lanzang Technical School, where he studied once in the past, from which he tried so hard to escape. And what will Zhang Dali have to do now in this situation? Suddenly, the cat of the system appeared and congratulated student Zhang Dali on his successful official admission to the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races and the beginning of his path to achieving immortality. The cat asked Zhang Dali if he should open the System Attributes panel. Zhang Dali asked to open the System Attributes panel. There was all the detailed information about the student Zhang Dali. His strength level is +3. His speed is only 0. His spells are also 0, and even his defense is also 0. Then Zhang Dali began to laugh loudly and say that he was not a complete 0 at all, as other students of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races told him. And he was not worthless at all, so once the system was already activated, very soon he, Zhang Dali, would begin his great journey to achieving immortality, and then everything would be fine. The Academies of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races will definitely remember him, and perhaps he will even go down in history as a great defender or teacher. The system suddenly gave Zhang Dali a new task again, which was even stranger than the first one, when he had to confess his love to Qingmeili 10 times. This time, Zhang Dali had to sing a children's song about a white bunny and his 2 ears in front of completely unfamiliar people in the crowd. The cat of the system explained that, based on the audience shake-up indicator, Zhang Dali will be able to increase his level of collecting spirit improvement from the 1st to the 4th level, if only he can successfully complete the second task given to him and sing a children's song on the street in a crowd of people. Then Zhang Dali confidently headed forward to sing a song and perform the task he had just received. Along the way, Zhang Dali remembered what kind of a children's song about a white bunny. Is this really the same children's song from the widespread divine comedy that is popular with children from 1 to 3 years old? But after all, everyone here is clearly over 20 years old, so Zhang Dali immediately thought that this song did not fit into this environment at all and he would probably feel very uncomfortable, and the audience probably would not like such a spectacle. When Zhang Dali walked, he was no longer as confident as before. He was almost immediately stopped by the old director of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races, Sun Daoran, and politely said that Zhang Dali should not be upset at all because of everything that happened to him today, because the gap between classes is not so great. Even though Zhang Dali is an unremarkable student who was sent to study in a cleaning class, he was able to spend something interesting in this place. Then the old director Sun Daoran added that Zhang Dali's future is still certainly full of great achievements, and the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races will definitely sincerely believe in Zhang Dali and hope for him. A new student of the cleaning class of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races. Zhang Dali looked with disbelief at the old director of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races, Sun Daojan, and then told him that he would really like to sing one song to them here now, in order to express all his emotions at this exciting moment for him and for other students of the Academy. The old director of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races, Sun Daoran, asked what kind of excitement song Zhang Dali has that he is so eager to share with other students and teachers of the Academy. The old director of the Academy, Sun Daoran, thought that he probably touched the student Zhang Dali very much with his sincere words, since Zhang Dali even decided to sing a song of excitement. Sun Daoran decided that he probably turned out to be quite an outstanding director of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races. Then the old director of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races, Sun Daoran, said that everyone urgently needs to keep quiet, because right now Zhang Dali wants to perform a song for them, which they all just have to listen carefully. The crowd was slightly excited and very surprised. Everyone was waiting for Zhang Dali to give an excellent performance with a beautiful song. Zhang Dali held in his hands a very ordinary mop for cleaning, which was recently handed to him by the old director of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races, Sun Daoran, as a microphone and coughed a little. Someone from the crowd shouted that he just loves pop songs. Another guy who was standing next to him said that he also adores pop songs, and the last time one of the seniors of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races went to the outside world, he even asked him to download the song Zhu Jai Gun by Jai Lun. Then this guy from the crowd added that the fact that Zhang Dali can sing well is already pretty good, considering that he is at the 0 level of spirit. Kai Kyongcheng's mentor shouted loudly, wishing Zhang Dali good luck, and began to look carefully at the stage, waiting for the performance of her new friend Zhang Dali. Zhang Dali was even a little scared at this moment, and then very awkwardly and embarrassingly began to sing a song about a little white bunny with one ear sticking out first, and then the other. The people in the crowd were very surprised, and even the old director of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races, Sun Dao, and Deputy Director Liu Sannian were completely shocked. All of them, including Kang Kyongcheng, looked at Zhang Dali with incomprehension in their eyes, because they expected anything from Zhang Dali, but not a children's song about a little white bunny, which is popular among children from 1 to 3 years old. The cat of the system announced to Zhang Dali that the index of his performance in public with a song about a little white bunny is estimated at 3 stars. Zhang Dali's spirit gathering cultivation was upgraded to the 1st level, and he received 2 skill points. Then Zhang Dali thought that it was pretty good that his spirit cultivation level had increased, in which case old man Jai would definitely be shocked. Zhang Dali was incredibly happy. He understood that if he continued to sing, then he would be able to raise his level. Zhang Dali continued to sing a song about a little white bunny and his 2 ears. He sang that this white bunny loved to eat carrots, constantly jumped and suddenly met his love. The cat of the system announced that the index of Zhang Dali's performance in public with a song about a little white bunny is already estimated at as many as 4 stars. Meanwhile, people in the crowd grabbed their heads and plugged their ears, because no one liked either the song about the little white bunny and his ears, or the way the cleaning class student, Zhang Dali, sang at all. Zhang Dali's spirit gathering cultivation was upgraded to the 2nd level, and Zhang Dali received 2 more skill points. Zhang Dali was very happy about this development, so he continued to sing his song about the little white bunny, and his ears. People in the crowd disliked it more and more, and someone even asked if their new classmate was trying to conjure. Another person said that after all, their Immortality Achievement Academy had never had such an outstanding talent that is at the 0 level of spirit cultivation. At this time, the cat of the system announced that Zhang Dali's performance in public is already rated at 5 stars and the improvement of spirit gathering has been upgraded to the 3rd level, and Zhang Dali receives 2 more skill points. Then Zhang Dali laughed and thought that his classmates would soon still cheerfully shout at him and wave with both hands. Zhang Dali told everyone to relax and come closer to him, and then Zhang Dali turned to the old director Sun Daojian and said that he should jump a little. The old director of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races, Sun Daojian, was very surprised. Director Sun Daojian looked at Zhang Dali, feeling embarrassed and ashamed, and thought that this was just bad luck and also the biggest failure of all in his entire career. The old director of the Academy of Achieving Immortality of Multiple Races, Sun Daojian, thought that Zhang Dali was the most annoying student of all in his Academy of Multiple Races. Finally, Zhang Dali finished singing his song about the little white bunny and his 2 ears in front of a crowd of students, among whom was mentor Kang Kyung-cheng, and thought that after raising the level of spirit gathering to the 3rd level, the first step towards achieving immortality and fulfilling his cherished dream of becoming successful had already been taken. Then Zhang Dali walked up to the tree, threw the mop from his hands to the ground and said that it was finally time to check how good he was now. Zhang Dali walked up to a large tree that stood in the middle of the campus, concentrated, and punched that tree with great force. But the miracle did not happen and Zhang Dali only screamed loudly from the severe pain in his arm. Zhang Dali asked the system if his 3rd level was just fake and all this was just a simple deception, because he couldn't even hit a tree normally. Student Zhang Dali was beside himself with rage. Then the cat of the system appeared in front of him again and said that improvement only reflects a change in the quantity and quality of spiritual energy in the body. And if Zhang Dali wants to harm someone or something, then first he needs to learn the appropriate movements. The cat of the system explained that Zhang Dali needs to increase skill points, and at the moment Zhang Dali has only 6 skill points. The cat of the system said that Zhang Dali should click on the scoreboard from the beginning, and then improve his chosen skill, speed, strength, defense, or spells. Zhang Dali said that now he understood everything, that he himself should increase skill points. Then Zhang Dali decided that first of all he needed to eliminate the insufficient amount of force, because he really did not want anyone to start bullying him because of what happened. At this very moment, Zhang Dali recalled the distant times of his difficult childhood. Zhang Dali recalled how once in kindergarten he broke a toy of a little girl. The girl cried very loudly and demanded that Zhang Dali immediately pay her for the broken toy. A woman came and started scolding Zhang Dali for this broken toy. She said that Zhang Dali is just a bad boy who knows himself that he is much stronger than ordinary people, but still can't control his behavior and breaks everything. Then Zhang Dali remembered how when he was 11 years old, all his peers treated him rudely and mocked him, because his teachers called him to help lift the table. The boys said that Zhang Dali was to blame for everything and that the teachers probably already hated him. They laughed, called Zhang Dali a fool and said that he definitely deserved it all. Then Zhang Dali remembered how, at the age of 18, his mother told him that his grades were average, neither high nor low, which was very good, but the problem was his strength, it was too great. He was offered to simply finish his studies early and go to work at his uncle's construction site. When Zhang Dali was 22 years old and he worked at his uncle's construction site, he finally had a girlfriend, but she asked him to break up, although he loved her very much. Zhang Dali was trying to find out the reason that he was abandoned, because for the sake of his beloved girlfriend, Zhang Dali went to work at the factory to support her. He was even going to steal batteries for her. Then the girl replied that she would tell him the truth. She said that the problem lies in his incredible strength, because all his energy is simply transferred to his muscles, and at the same time he has a complete mess in his head. Then the girl added that she did not feel a drop of romance in what Zhang Dali was doing for her. That's why the girl thought that Zhang Dali would never be able to give her the love she had always dreamed of. After these words, the girl said goodbye to Zhang Dali and left his life forever. Now Zhang Dali is in the Great Academy of Achieving Immortality of Numerous Races. He believed that he would definitely be able to achieve anything he wanted. Zhang Dali understood that right now, in order to improve, he just needed to acquire magic. He had to stay as far away from his dull past life as possible, and only in this case Zhang Dali would be able to attract many young and beautiful girls to him and give them what they want. After a bad experience from the past, student Zhang Dali decided that no one would love those who have only strength, and he would be a dog if he repeated his past life now. Zhang Dali carefully looked at his stats. His strength is +3, magic is 0, defense is 0, and spells are also 0. Then Zhang Dali decided that he should just raise the magic point by 2 levels and then see what happens. Zhang Dali pressed the magic enhancement button, but absolutely nothing happened. Zhang Dali asked why magic was still 0 if he wanted to improve it. Then Zhang Dali started shouting and asking the system what kind of business it was in general, and why he couldn't improve his magic. Then the cat of the system, already familiar to him, appeared in front of Zhang Dali again and said that according to the data of the system and its verification, it was not yet fully adapted to the body of the new owner, which is why the attribute panel could not be activated until the very end. In addition to all this, the cat of the system added that there are still some problems with increasing skills, so it will be impossible to add points to the magic attribute yet. Zhang Dali was just beside himself with anger. He was asking why the system was not fully activated yet and why it was still not adapted to his body. The cat of the system even climbed a tree out of fright, away from Zhang Dali. Zhang Dali saw that he was there, glared at him angrily and shouted that he knew from the very beginning that he could not be relied on, and then still viciously asked why the system was still not adapted to his body. Then the cat of the system reported that the system shows that the strength on the host's body is too great, which is why only strength can be increased on the attribute panel. Zhang Dali started shouting again and asking if the cat of the system really wants to say that Zhang Dali will only be able to increase his strength. Zhang Dali could not believe what was happening to him now. Did his worthless life have to repeat itself here at the Academy of Numerous Races? Zhang Dali then grabbed his head with his hands, looked up at the sky and started shouting, sending the system to hell. After some time, Zhang Dali had to return to the dormitory of the human race of the United Academy of Numerous Species. Zhang Dali sat by a tree near the dormitory of the human race of the United Academy of Numerous Species and thought that it was still better than having nothing at all. The cat of the system at this time was hiding behind a tree from Zhang Dali and was afraid to approach him. Then Zhang Dali started pressing the power level increase button again, and so 9 times. After a moment, Zhang Dali came up to the newcomer's dorm and said that it looked pretty good. But the student Zhang Dali still did not know if his roommate had come, so he was in no hurry to go inside. But still, Zhang Dali wanted to slowly and carefully open the door to the dorm and go inside. But due to the fact that Zhang Dali had improved his strength level quite a lot, the door just fell off its hinges and fell to the floor with a bang. So Zhang Dali entered his new residence. In the room, he almost immediately met his new neighbor, a stout man with his hair in a ponytail and some piece of cloth in his hands. His name was Gilbert Eberhard. Gilbert Eberhard looked with undisguised displeasure at Zhang Dali, who had just entered. Zhang Dali awkwardly raised his hand in greeting and politely greeted, as everyone usually does when they meet again. Gilbert Eberhard did not answer Zhang Dali, but only muttered something unintelligible with displeasure. And Zhang Dali was a little embarrassed by this and felt very uncomfortable. Zhang Dali was still standing in the doorway all this time, and the man thought that Zhang Dali was probably some kind of strange pervert, and could not figure out what was going on at all. A stout man, Gilbert Eberhard, rudely turned around, looked at Zhang Dali, who was standing in the doorway, and asked why Zhang Dali behaved so rudely and did not even knock before entering and breaking down the door. Student Gilbert Eberhard asked if student Zhang Dali was familiar with any manners at all. Student Zhang Dali became very ashamed. He again awkwardly scratched his head with his hand and said that he tried to knock on the door, but it turned out to be too weak, so it just fell when he touched it. At that moment, Zhang Dali thought that next time he should control his too huge strength, because he had recently greatly increased it by investing all his points in it. Then the man asked what Zhang Dali needed from him at all. Zhang Dali replied that he was a new student of the academy in the cleaning class. Since the man was almost without outerwear, he told Zhang Dali to wait for him for a while, and he would quickly put something on himself. Gilbert Eberhard quickly ran to the other room from Zhang Dali. Student Gilbert Eberhard quickly put on some kind of long robe and returned to Zhang Dali again. Student Zhang Dali did not wait long for Gilbert Eberhard. Gilbert Eberhard greeted his new classmate and said that he was very glad to meet him, and then politely shook the new guest's hand. Zhang Dali was a little surprised and asked if they were really going to study in the same class with him now. Gilbert Eberhard replied that it was exactly like that his name was Gilbert Eberhard, but then asked Zhang Dali to call him simply Bert for short, because he was only a little older than Zhang Dali. When Zhang Dali heard that Gilbert Eberhard was only slightly older than him, he was very surprised, because Gilbert Eberhard looked much older than him. Then Zhang Dali said that he really hoped that student Gilbert Eberhard would not hold a grudge against him if he asked him how he also ended up in the same class. Then Gilbert Eberhard tapped his chest with his hands and said that it was no secret at all and he just stayed for the second year 20 times in a row. Zhang Dali was very surprised that Gilbert Eberhard stayed for the second year 20 times in a row, and did not even hide it. But then Zhang Dali asked, doesn't this mean that Gilbert Eberhard has much more experience than other students in this class? Then Gilbert Eberhard replied that this is probably exactly the case, because even many new teachers in their first days at the academy ask him what and how it is in this academy of numerous races in general. Then Zhang Dali's new classmate, student Gilbert Eberhard, said that it was time to finish talking and go to their new class, because the lesson should start very soon. Gilbert Eberhard brought a new student, student Zhang Dali, into the classroom with the rest of the students. Everyone in the class was doing their own thing while waiting for the lesson to begin. Zhang Dali carefully examined the classroom and all the students who were sitting at their desks. Then the student Zhang Dali laughed a little and said that he was very afraid that the lessons of the cleaning class would take place in some pantry. But surprisingly, student Zhang Dali thought that this cleaning class was pretty good. Student Gilbert Eberhard went to one of the desks and sat down on his chair. A new cleaning class student, Zhang Dali, followed a new acquaintance and sat at a desk next to Gilbert Eberhard. Then Gilbert Eberhard looked at the student Zhang Dali and said that this class is not bad at all. After all, this is the official class of their Academy of Numerous Races. Gilbert Eberhard sadly put his hands on the desk, put his voice on them and joylessly said that the worst students who lack any talent are sent to this class. In addition to all this, student Gilbert Eberhard said that their class is also responsible for cleaning the entire territory of the Academy of Numerous Races. After their conversation, the homeroom teacher of the cleaning class of the Academy of the Perfection of Immortality of Numerous Races, Shane Lynch, entered the classroom and asked everyone to keep quiet. All the students fell silent, looked attentively at Teacher Lynch and began to listen. The homeroom teacher of the cleaning class of the Academy of Perfection of Immortality of Multiple Races, Shane Lynch, welcomed the students to the Academy of Perfection of Immortality of Multiple Races. Then the homeroom teacher of the cleaning class of the Academy of the Perfection of Immortality of Numerous Races, Shane Lynch, introduced himself and said that his name was Shane Lynch. The homeroom teacher of the cleaning class of the Academy of Perfection of Immortality of Numerous Races, Shane Lynch, asked the students of the cleaning class to listen carefully to him and loudly clapped his hands several times. The students looked at Teacher Lynch. At that moment, homeroom teacher Shane Lynch turned his attention to Gilbert Eberhard and said that he should have sat up straight, since he was in class right now. Then the student Gilbert Eberhard finally raised his head from his desk and with some indignation said that the homeroom teacher of the cleaning class of the Academy for the Perfection of Immortality of Numerous Races, Shane Lynch, should leave him behind. The homeroom teacher of the cleaning class of the Academy of the Perfection of Immortality of Numerous Races, Shane Lynch, shouted loudly for student Gilbert Eberhard to immediately stand up and show respect to his teacher. Then teacher Shane Lynch asked how dare student Gilbert Eberhard talk so rudely to his homeroom teacher. Then student Gilbert Eberhard told teacher Lynch that he was 10 years younger than him in this Academy of Perfecting the Immortality of Numerous Races. And when teacher Shane Lynch was still quite a beginner, student Gilbert Eberhard stood up for him constantly. And then student Gilbert Eberhard rudely asked if teacher Shane Lynch would really like him, who had been so kind to him in the past, to stand up now. Teacher Shane Lynch felt very uncomfortable and said that there was nothing to be done about such as student Gilbert Eberhard anyway, so he should just do what he wants. Teacher Shane Lynch tried to hide with all his appearance that he was very uncomfortable with the fact that a student of his cleaning class, Gilbert Eberhard, had said something like that to him. Then student Zhang Dali turned to his new classmate Gilbert Eberhard and said, smiling at the same time, that he was very cool, since even teacher Shane Lynch was afraid to go against him. Student Gilbert Eberhard looked at student Zhang Dali and said that, of course, he had been spending time here for a reason all these 20 years. Then the student Gilbert Eberhard smiled broadly in all his teeth and added that everyone in this Academy of the Perfection of Immortality of Numerous Races respects him very much. Then teacher Shane Lynch stood behind the podium and said that there are both old and new students in this cleaning class, but of course there are a lot more new ones. Teacher Shane Lynch said that all of those present here have absolutely no talents and skills, are poor, and also poorly educated. Another teacher, Shane Lynch, added that all the students in the cleaning class are stupid and indecisive, compared to other, successful and talented students of the Academy of Immortality Improvement of Numerous Races. The students of the cleaning class looked sadly at someone at the teacher Shane Lynch, and someone just lowered their eyes. Then teacher Shane Lynch loudly asked if they were satisfied with this. Did they not want to achieve something more and become more successful, like other students of the Academy of Immortality Perfection of Numerous Races? Suddenly, one of the cleaning class students with perfect indifference in his eyes asked, if there are students who work harder and study well, then why should they even strive for at least something and try to become successful? Teacher Shane Lynch was so taken aback by this question that it was a huge blow to him. Then the teacher Shane Lynch said that this was definitely a very good question, and then asked if there was at least someone among all the students of the cleaning class who would want to answer this question and be able to explain to others why they should still try to study and make themselves more successful than they are now. Absolutely none of the present textbooks of the cleaning class of the Academy of the Perfection of Immortality of Numerous Races were in a hurry to answer the question asked by their classmate. Zhang Dali seriously thought about this question, but also did not want to answer. Then the teacher Shane Lynch said that the student who can give an answer to the question asked by their classmate will be relieved of cleaning duties for 10 whole days. But in fact, teacher Shane Lynch was very confused, because even he himself could not give the students an answer to the question of his cleaning class students. Suddenly, Zhang Dali raised his hand and said that he could answer this question based on personal experience from his life. Then Zhang Dali put his hand to his chest and said that he thought they should definitely try, if only for the sake of understanding how powerless they really are. Teacher Shane Lynch clearly did not expect such an answer to the question, which is why he froze and did not say anything while the other students laughed at this answer. And Gilbert Eberhard even said that this was just a great answer to a question from a classmate and loudly clapped his hands. Then the student Gilbert Eberhard said that he was very grateful to those who were able to throw him to the ground and allowed him to lie comfortably on it now. Another student of the cleaning class shouted that everything previously said was really true and also loudly clapped his hands. Another student of the cleaning class of the Academy of Perfection of Immortality of Numerous Races said that success actually does not always come with hard work, but in any case, you can always relax without hard work. Gilbert Eberhard laughed out loud again and, lying on his desk, shouted that there is absolutely nothing difficult in the world if you just give up right away. One of the students also said that if you try to achieve at least something, you can always just completely ruin everything. The homeroom teacher of the cleaning class, Shane Lynch, looked at his students with undisguised frustration and even some fear in his eyes. The homeroom teacher of the cleaning class, Shane Lynch, could not understand why these guys were behaving so disgustingly, and the students just continued to admire the situation. Then, the homeroom teacher of the cleaning class of the Academy of the Perfection of Immortality of Numerous Races, Shane Lynch, shouted that from this moment on, their cleaning class would officially be disbanded and loudly slammed the palm of his left hand on the table behind which he was standing. After his loud statement, the homeroom teacher of the cleaning class of the Academy of the Perfection of Immortality of Numerous Races, Shane Lynch, took his class magazine from the table and quickly left the classroom and headed down the corridor of the academy as far as possible from these flighty students of his cleaning class.